Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon, Point 14. Good afternoon, 648 Television, Irvin Felix, and all the people who make this happen. Good afternoon. Happy African Emancipation Day. Now, we say those words. What does it mean? Africans were emancipated back in 1833 from colonial slavery. After 400 years of oppression, of destruction, of disrespect, denigration, murder, rape, abuse. But emancipation is one thing. The second part of our emancipation continues. We have to emancipate our minds from mental slavery. Because while the slave master may have changed color, changed hue, changed ethnicity, those who have been in power, the color and the hue may have changed, but the policies of oppression remained. I couldn't believe when I was watching the parliament as a senator, I was sitting there watching the lower house debate, and after the debates, members of the lower house were invited to bring greetings on the celebration of African Emancipation Day. And this former Minister of Public Utilities, who had brought more pain and oppression on Black people as a Minister of Public Utilities than any minister previously, meaning he took the very lifeblood of water away from people in general. And if we're talking about African Emancipation Day, especially away from African people, water is life. To take away water from people, there can be no greater sin. Marvin Gonzalez is the hands-down worst Minister of Public Utilities in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Ganga Singh, for example, that we would like to say and differentiate in politics that them is Indian and we is African and he is Dogra and all of that nonsense. Well, let's deal with it frontally. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the Indian Prime Minister, and Ganga Singh, the Indian Minister of Public Utilities, in 2014 took water to 74% of the population, 24/7 supply in your house. What does that mean? That means when you turn on your tap, you get water 24/7. Out of that 74% of the population, at least half of that was African people. In comes Marvin Gonzalez, selected by the greatest Oreo, a man who's not proud of his blackness. I don't know what took place in his younger days in Tobago, but a man who lives now ashamed of his color, ashamed of his hue, whose policies show his actions, his disrespect, his denigration of Black people, his attitude to Black people. Keep Christopher Oreo Rowley chose Marvin Gonzalez to provide the nation with water. And all he succeeded in doing was taking away water from 62% of the people who had water. So out of that 62% that he took away water from, at least 50% of that was Black African people. And this man, the biggest failure in public utilities history, stood up to try to equate PNM and African emancipation. He tried to equate PNM with African creativity, brilliance, and upward mobility. Well, Mr. Felix, I'm a man who deals with history and facts. There has been no greater yoke around the neck of African people than the PNM, the People's National Movement. In fact, the PNM took successful, brilliant, creative, diligent, punctual, hardworking, arduous, upwardly mobile African people in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And through their policies turned the African people of Trinidad and Tobago in all spheres to also run. What am I talking about? Go back and read your history books and check the statistics. In the 50s under colonialism, in 56 when we first got our little legislative council and Premier Dr. Williams was there, in the 60s and 70s, the scholars, the highest achievers in academia were all African male. Women didn't get the equal share yet. Women were still downtrodden and oppressed across the globe, including here in Trinidad and Tobago. The scholars were African. Dr. Williams went QRC, my father went QRC, all the scholarship winners were in QRC, and they were African, 90 to 95%. After 30 years of unfettered PNM rule, the East Indians started. They realized that political power would never be theirs. And the East Indians that were the sons and daughters of illiterate cane farmers who could not read nor write, who would toil in the cane fields for hours for minimum wage, they decided, along with their religious groups, because the difference between the East Indian community that came here as indentured laborers and the children of African slaves was that the Indians brought their culture, they brought their music, they brought their cuisine, they brought their religion, they brought the sense of community.
Yes.
The PNM prevented Africans from developing that. The PNM did not uphold our African religion. The PNM did not teach African history. The PNM did not promote African music and African drumming. The PNM said if you played pan music, you were a bandit and a gangster. The PNM taught black people to denigrate and to disrespect themselves. The East Indian community had nothing but themselves, their history, their teachings, and their religion. They did not have political power. And they decided to take Dr. Williams' advice. Education is in the books, in the book bags of our school children. And the Hindu community, the Mahasabha, other organizations, temples, the Muslim community, Asya, other organizations started to educate the next generation and the generation after that. And you saw children of illiterate cane farmers becoming doctors, neurosurgeons, specialists, lawyers, professors, pushing and making business, creating manufacturing, and so on. And what did the African community have? They moved from the heights of achievement, 90% versus 10%. And over the years, you saw those numbers start to dwindle. Then you started to see the dependency syndrome, because Dr. Williams did not want African people to be independent, to think for themselves, because it's very hard when somebody is independent thought. For example, think about you, Irvin Felix, or me. Do you think any PNM could come and tell me the policy is no water, the policy is no job, the policy is only the 1% getting all the contract, the policy is black man must suffer, the policy is no food volume, the policy is no money for sport, vote for me because you're black? Do you think that will work with you, Irvin Felix? Do you think it will work with me? No. Why? It wouldn't work. Because we are educated and we are full of self-esteem and we look at things based on factual matrix. We make decisions without emotion. Once you talk race, it's pure emotion. Emotion does not involve cognitive thought. So you are taught, even though you feel the love from Kamala Prasad Bisesa in 2010 to 2015, for example, even though your money was stretching further, even though you're going to the grocery and she takes VAT up 7,000 food items, even though you get a back pay twice, and you could take some savings. Even though you didn't have to find $5,000 to buy a laptop, you get a laptop. Even though you didn't have to find an extra $3,000 per term to buy books because she give you textbooks for your children. So if you didn't have to find 8, 10, 20,000 to pay for your children to go to university, to go to Tech Voc, because Kamala paid that for you. Even though all of these were feeling it, you're feeling good, you're living good, you're feeling a little safer, you're filling up your gas tank, and you could drive all over. Even though these things were real, and you felt it, the PNM say, she's a Indian. She's a Indian. Indian don't like you. Indian don't like you. Indian don't like you. And you buy into that stupidity. That had to be madness. That had to be stupidity. Foolishness. First and foremost, we are Trinbagonians. We may have, our ancestors may have come here by different pathways from different continents. But we are red, white, and black. We are blood, our blood all be the same. We are communities. More African does eat doubles than Indian. More Indian does eat corn soup and pale out than African. We jump and we whine and we soca and we calypso and we listen to the pan because we are one. We are Trinbagonian. So any stupidity, any asininity from the PNM about them is black, let me tell you, the PNM is anti-black. The PNM, I'm going to make a case to you, Urban Felix. The PNM worse than the white man colonials. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
When the white man was here, everybody had to fight for their own. Meaning, the Indian, the African, you had to get out there and work hard and get what you could get because the white man not giving nobody nothing.
True.
And you know what happened? The strong, black, intelligent African people were succeeding because of their skills, because of their intelligence, because of their discipline. So they moved upwards in academia, in business. You were seeing them moving around and developing. And then came the PNM. And Dr. Williams wanted to create a cult that would ensure his political future. He gerrymandered boundaries, and he never created a unifying force other than the PNM for the people of African descent. He did not respect Shouta Baptist and Orisha and the African religions because he did not want others to be powerful. He wanted people to be looking and searching for unity, searching for love, searching for community. And while they were searching, he put himself there with a balisé tie, a black tie with a balisé flower, and he told the people, when you are lost, when you can't find yourself, if you cannot feel yourself in African history and your self-esteem is low, your self-esteem will be boosted by saying, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail. Dr. Williams was a wicked man. He knew what he was doing. He knew that he was replacing what was all good from Africa with his political party. This is why you wonder, but how them PNM? You could tutu in the mouth, you could slap them, you could kick them, you could stab them, you could fire them. But they always say, great is the PNM. They take your work, great is the PNM. Them get recusal, great is the PNM. The 1% get richer, great is the PNM. They have no black man in big portfolio, great is the PNM. All the PNM constituencies suffering for water, lights, bad road, pothole, no job, crime, corruption, schools, low scores, children failing, dropouts, plenty weed, plenty drinking, plenty single mothers, no fathers. And they say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM. That is because Dr. Williams was sick. Dr. Williams was selfish and he only wanted political power. For if he was not, he would not be suffering now. It is Bastille Pandey, the Indian, who recognized Shouta Baptist Day, who decriminalized the African religion. It is Kamala Prasad versus the Indian who gave Shouta Baptist the school and the land to lift up themselves. It is Bashir Pandey, the Indian, who allowed Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, to set foot back on the land of his birth. The PNM banned Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael, born here, bred here, lived here for 11 years, went to the USA and became a freedom fighter for black people, put his life on the line, got out there to fight against Jim Crow and civil rights movement. And it is PNM who said that man is dangerous. Why did the PNM think this powerful, strong black man was dangerous? Because he was teaching black people to think, to be independent, to understand that leaders must serve them, that they must vote and their power must be shown based on facts, on information, on intellect. He was building the self-esteem of black people. PNM could not have that. PNM did not want that. So PNM banned Stokely Carmichael from setting down here because they didn't want that virus to spread. Black people thinking independently. No, they must just say, great is the PNM. Great is the cult of the PNM, and it shall prevail. And that's what Dr. Williams created. The PNM is worse than the colonial powers. The PNM took a successful African population and decimated it. And now when we look at SCA, Indian performing better. Out of every top 200 is 150 to 160 Indian name, 30 African name, and the rest is mix-up name, Chinese, Syrian, white people, whatever. And that is the way it has been going for the last 25 years. And I challenge anybody to contest me with those facts. I have been going through the list, except when the PNM hit the list from 2019 to 2023, because I was on the radio and I saw the list of the top 200 and I analyzed it. But I also saw the bottom 1,000. In 2017, 2018, 1,000 children got 0 Irvin Felix. 1,000, not they didn't take the exam, you know. They sat down for the full 3 hours and got 0. They got nothing correct. They didn't get 1 point. Do you know out of those 1,000 children, how many were African names? 842. I sat through and went through and counted it, and on Douglas Politics on Power 102.1 FM, I let it out. And I said to the PNM, I don't want to see pictures of those children who got 100%. Those children are in good hands. Those children's parents have taken the time to educate them, discipline them, and they've put the work. Those children have good teachers. They have good lessons teachers. They have good people around them. They have good religion. They have children good. I don't need to know. I am happy for them. But what is the job of a leader? The job of a leader is to uplift those most in need. So I want to know what we're doing with the 1,000 children in 2018 that got 0. What you're doing to make them able to fall into society. What skills do they have? What are you doing to lift their self-esteem? The PNM did nothing. You know what the PNM did? They banned the list. They hide the list. They take away scholarship. They turn it into bursary. So they want to hide the truth so that they could continue with the nonsense. But great is the PNM. The PNM is a yoke on African people neck. On this African Emancipation Day, you must continue your emancipation. Emancipate yourself from the mental slavery that is the PNM. Get rid of the PNM. Vote UNC, vote other parties. Let the PNM decimated. Will the UNC be perfect? We will never be perfect, but we will listen, we will try, and everybody will get an opportunity to succeed. Look, a black lady just lost her life because the PNM so wicked and vindictive. They leave a bridge that was complete since 2015 September. They leave it. They left people suffering on a 1-1 bridge, a Bailey kind of structure. And now a woman has lost her life because the PNM didn't want to open a flipping bridge. You know how many children die because the PNM didn't want to open the Coover Children's Hospital? Fire burn the PNM. Don't try to play PNM, put on dashiki and bawling about African. The PNM is worse than the colonials. The colonials were there and oppressed everybody. But the black man was able to succeed, to use his and her skill, strength, discipline to rise. Then came 30 years of PNM, and black man was taught, they forgot what naturally came to them. Natural academic brilliance, discipline, hard work, and so on. They became dependent on the PNM for scraps. And that is a sin that the PNM could never counter for. So I don't want to hear Marvin Gonzalez, Marvelous Marva, talking and set of nonsense about PNM. When there was the Black Power Revolution in 1970, Irvin Felix, who that was against?
Yes. Was against
who was in charge? But it was against the PNM.
Yes, was against the own.
Because the PNM had been in charge for 18 years and black man could not get a good walk. They couldn't get a chance to walk in bank, no matter how bright, because the PNM upholds those 1%ers. So the Black Revolution of 1970 was against the PNM. It wasn't against colonial. It wasn't against England. It wasn't against the Queen.
No.
It was against the flipping PNM because PNM just hold on black people. What are they coming to tell me about PNM and black people? PNM is the worst thing. If your child wanted to play pan, PNM, your mother will say, boy, don't go in no pan yard. That is for gangsters and undesirables. Who was in charge when that was the attitude? The PNM. Now they come to try to pretend, oh, they love pan because they put pan on an emblem. The PNM is deleterious to the upward mobility of African people. So this African Emancipation Day, my people, emancipate yourselves from the PNM mental slavery.
Yes, sir. Oh, gosh. Mr. Roberts, once when you love us here getting on this.